Okay, this is our, hang on, let me get my notes here. Our Ask Me Anything at all session with the SEL4 Foundation Technical Steering Committee, and we are fortunate to have 8 out of 11, I think, of those folks here. So we have June Andronic from SEL4 Foundation and Proofcraft, Ihor Kuz from Cry10, Kent McLeod from Cry10. We're
missing Yan Yan.
Yeah, she's there.
Come on, man.
Oh, so we have 9. We have 9 out of 11. That's pretty good. You got to bring a chair up.
I think I didn't understand. Come here.
No kidding. Well, I definitely will not be up there. Matt Brecknell, we just heard from. Raf Kolansky from Proofcraft. Gerwin Klein from Proofcraft. Gernot Heiser from UNSW. Anna Lyons, formerly from Ghost and now from TBD. Yeah. And Yang Yang from Trusted System?
From Neo.
From Neo. Okay, great. Okay, so this is your time to ask these folks anything you want about the Technical Steering Committee. First off, why don't we just talk about what the Technical Steering Committee for the Foundation actually does? And it looks like Gerwin would be the ideal person to speak to that.
All right. So I'm the chair of the Technical Steering Committee at the moment, so I guess I should know. The Technical Steering Committee oversees the technical direction of SEL4. So it sets the policies for contribution to the repositories. It discusses and approves or rejects RFCs, requests for comments. It decides on who gets committer rights or reviewer rights on the repositories and so on. So it basically does the technical content. I said that, requests for comments, RFCs. So the discussion on RFCs is by everybody, but the decision is by the Technical Steering Committee. Any other questions on that?
Okay. But if I look at the charter, I think there's some things in addition to just what you've described as purely the technical parts of it. There's code of conduct issues and other things.
That's true.
What does that entail? I mean, how much discussion has there been for that, or what might people need to know about that?
So we already had a code of conduct before we started the foundation for basically how we conduct ourselves on the mailing list, on the repositories, and so on and so forth, which rules, be respectful and so on. Mm-hmm. And the foundation had a requirement that you have to have one, and we basically took the one we had because we were happy with it. Okay. And I guess we're also in a sense the enforcement body of that if it gets violated. So far, it's been pretty good.
Okay.
And we're happy with that.
Good. Questions from the audience? This is really oh, here we go, right here. Hey. First bidder.
I have a question for everyone that I'd like to ask all at the same time. So if you'd play along with me, I'm going to ask a question. I'm going to like you to give a number in unit of years with your hands by raising your hand and showing that number of years without looking at each other. So the question is, about how long do you think it will take for the MCS vanilla convergence to occur? 3, 2, 1, please raise your hands.
Sorry, I did not understand the rules.
That's okay. So just to summarize what I saw, somewhere between 2 and 5 years, people seeing for convergence. Thank you very much.
I'll ask another question here. So what has been the most challenging issue since the organization of the foundation, the TSC, that that this group has had to deal with, most contentious or technically difficult, or Kent? Anna?
I think one of the problems is, well, not a problem, but we want to create a really welcoming community, but we want to maintain a really high integrity in the kernel and the tools available.
Right.
So being able to have enough time to go through all the pull requests really carefully is a lot of work. And like, I was working full time for another company, so I can only really look at the ones that I remember in great detail, not other ones. So I think that's a really big challenge. Like, people will complain on the other side and say it takes forever to get changes in. And it's like, yes,
Right.
we need help reviewing things and getting things in, because we can't really compromise on just letting stuff in if we're not sure about it. We need
Right.
someone to look at it in great detail, which is a lot of time and a lot of unpaid time. So
Any thoughts on how to make that better? Or, I mean, what does it take to have, I mean, it's just more people reviewing those requests?
yeah, and I think as we grow the community and get more
Yeah.
engineers who are very familiar with it, that will help.
Yeah. Is right now that limited to the TSC, or are there other, trusted people in that larger group that are moderating those or evaluating those?
Yeah, so there is a larger group. There are 3 levels of, how should I say, access in the SEL4 Foundation. There is a TSC member, which is basically decisions on RFCs and so on. There's committer, which is all people who have direct push rights to the repository, and that mostly means they can push the merge button on GitHub. It does not usually mean you can just push to the main branch of the repository. And then there's the reviewer role, who has access to all the test infrastructure for pull requests and so on. And all 3 levels are expected to and usually happy to help in reviewing. And in fact, anybody can help review a pull request. Only committers and above can actually merge them. But yeah. And review and above are those people who have committed to spend some time on it.
I wanted to add to the challenge part that we got quite shuffled, as you may have noticed, with the different organizations and so forth. So actually having people to review these things has been a little bit harder when they went off to organizations that don't permit them to do so. So this means a few very experienced people we don't have access to anymore, and we're making do. So this situation is going to improve by itself as we have people actually working with organizations, companies, and so on, where they are able to contribute. Right now, that's a limited resource, but it's going to grow.
Kent?
Building on top of that, I think there's also in some areas, a shortage of technical domain expertise. So even just only supporting 3 architectures, x86, ARM, and RISC-V, like there's some contributions like a 64-bit x86 guest VM virtualization support pull request that's been sitting there for about 2 years. And it's partially blocked on having like the technical expertise for someone to go through and review that it's implementing the like correctly implementing what the x86 architecture defines and what it should do, and that there aren't any subtle bugs there, because like until it's verified, the correctness is only going to come from like standard software engineering practices. And so yeah, so like we do have a shortage in some areas because of that.
So yeah, move the mic over here. But there's a tension between, for the benefit of the community, wanting to support more platforms, but then not having the resources, and maybe you should focus on fewer platforms. Where do you guys feel about that tension between wanting to support all of these customers that want all these different things versus saying, yeah, you know what, in order to maintain quality, we're going to have to let x86 go or something like that. Nobody should want the plastic cup. Thoughts?
Well, so I would say that at least from the verification side, it's going to sound harsh, but we're looking at people who seem genuinely interested, and that means it's not the fire of the moment, that they're interested in something, and then 2 years from now they'll be like, oh yeah, that was nice, but we would really like to have PowerPC now. No. So a commitment to actually, well, this platform is serious for us. And one of the signs of that is that people are actually willing to part with some funds to ensure that this happens, and even say, look, we don't just want it to happen once and then nothing, but we actually want to keep working with you and keep going. So those types of efforts, I think, are always going to have priority.
So with my foundation chairman hat on, obviously I want to see as many supported platforms as possible. There's an inherent tension, as you say, but we also need to understand that there's supported verified platforms versus supported SEO4 deployable platforms, and not everyone needs the full verification story. And this is definitely where the community can help, and where I believe that there's a lot of untapped potential where we really haven't scaled as much as we hoped in terms of community adoption of platforms and components. I really want to encourage organizations, individuals working in the SEO4 space to be more proactive in taking ownership of a particular component of the ecosystem, because that's really critical. We cannot possibly scale to a lot of different supported things. This is where the community comes in, and particularly the members need to see it as part of their obligations of in-kind contributions to the ecosystems by taking ownership of some of these things.
And to be clear, Gernot, those kind of things don't have to be passed through this same approval process of the TSC, right? If it's a assured component or something in the ecosystem, or how does that work? Do we still have the same gateway problem there?
It depends.
Yeah.
I'll get to your question. I just wanted to say, and for Gernot's part, you can see that there are currently about 3 levels of support for things, specifically platforms. So contributing a new platform to an already existing architecture is not such a big thing. It will not cost huge amounts of verification or huge amounts of reviewing. Adding a new feature to SEL4 is much more critical, because that could, in theory, destroy all the guarantees it has.
Right.
And so, fortunately, the thing that happens most is new platforms. And for that, there's about 3 levels of support. One is verified platform. There's a few of those. The next is maintained by the SEL4 Foundation. So we make a commitment that it's not going to be broken. It's going to be fine. It's going to be supported into the future. On the same level as supported by SEL4 Foundation, there are a few platforms now that are supported by some other organization. That's what Gernot was talking about. If you had a lot more of those, that level of support could scale pretty easily and nicely. And then there is sort of the thing that Ralph was alluding to. There are a lot of platform ports that are one-offs or are basically, yeah, I got it to work on my platform. I want to share it because it's cool, but nobody has the time to maintain it into the future. And those are listed, but as unmaintained. And we'll keep them as long as they work. If they break, then we'll probably drop them, unless somebody wants to take them out. Cool. And now I promised to get to your question, but I forgot it.
I think you were addressing that. It was about if for ecosystem
other
components and other
yes.
components. Yeah.
So the level of quality for other components can be differing, I would say, as well.
It depends again.
Yeah, for the kernel, there's always direct verification impact. Yeah. If you are contributing a new library that, I don't know, does nicer allocation, for instance, that will cost reviewing time, but it's not quite as expensive as a formally verified kernel.
Okay. Okay. Question. Sorry.
Hi, I'm Albert. So I have a question, several questions from the verification side. So the first easy one is that since there are plans for using Pancake to formally verify device drivers, does that mean that I have to learn Whole4 now if I want to formally verify drivers? Or because learning Isabelle is pretty tough enough? Of course, it's easy If you just use auto in inductions and apply inductions and auto, that's fine. But Isabel is a very deep technology that you have to learn a lot of things. Not to mention it's going to ML level and etc. So for me, wanting to learn another theorem prover seems like another investment that I have to make. So does that mean I have to learn whole for? Or I know that there is a work by Lars Huppel that can do formal verifications, and there's some verified compiler to Cake ML, but there's another step again from Cake ML to Pancake. So how does that work? So that's the first question. Go on.
There's no plan, or I would push back against that actively to force people to use a particular user level framework, right? This is up to you. So in particular, it's up to you whether you want to use Pancake for writing device drivers or not. The question is, do you really want to have verified device drivers? If you do, then you should use the route that's at the lowest effort to get there. And the first place for that one will be to actually adopt the new device driver framework, because it radically simplifies the model, the programming task you have to do. And Lucy this afternoon will give concrete numbers of that. I don't want to steal her thunder. But that's already going to be a major step in getting more robust drivers by implementing them according to the new framework model. But then if you want them verified, again, it's up to you. You can try to use it to do it in C, but for the reasons given, like the cost of verifying C code, etc., it's going to be a major project for any individual driver to verify it, and you're way better off learning Pancake to get you there once Pancake is mature enough, which will still take a few years, to be honest, right?
I want to add, initially, yes, Whole 4 will be the only way, but there is hope. In the DARPA case project, we had to do the initializer. And doing the system initialization, of course, we wanted a verified binary blob at the end that just initializes the system. Well, how do you do that? Only thing we had access to is KML, right? And of course, did we learn Whole 4? Not really. We used Lars Huppel's framework, which you mentioned, and Johannes, who now works at UNSW, on Pancake, he actually developed a way of taking our Isabel specification and translating it using that framework into KML, and then we proved our properties on the specification. So I'm guessing that initially there's not going to be such a framework for Pancake, but they have Johannes, and they have Johannes working on Pancake. So if that's a thing you're interested in, he can make it happen.
I completely agree. I would just say from the logic and research perspective, that is the simpler problem. Verified device drivers are the harder problem. So if we get there and it works, getting a translation from Whole 4 into Isabel or the other way around is going to be possible.
Okay. So the next question is, what is the model that Proofcraft or SEL for Foundations expect regarding developing the proofs? So from the presentation so far, the way I see it is that we have problems in the formal verifications, but we are running short of resources. So please fund us to do the formal verifications. I know that there are much more C developers than Isabel developers or proof engineers out there. So what are the model do you expect? Do you expect the rest of us to kind of, if we have a formal verification problem, then we should definitely send it to Proofcraft? Or is there an effort from SEL4 Foundations or Proofcraft to kind of amass or educate as many proof engineers out there? I think most of the development, most of the tutorial are all about the SEL4 code and not so many about the formal proofs itself. So maybe in the future, instead of amassing everything for Proofcraft, I know it's probably very good for Proofcraft, but is there a plans in the agenda to make everybody who are interested with proof engineering to get involved with the SEL4 proofs development?
You want me to answer that? I think the contributions on the proof side of things from the community has been extremely rare. I'm not sure we had much. So that's the first point, is that I mean, we welcome to see like contribution and see how they look like, but there is also the point of getting the expertise, like having trying to get proof engineers in the trustworthy system for years. It takes a lot of time to get the right expertise, and then to write on to be able to understand the amount of work that has been done that exists for the existing proof, the million lines of proof that we're talking about. It takes a number of months to get the people proficient and providing proofs that not only work now, but are maintainable over the years. That's also one of the really key difficulty about, and that is specific to SEL4 in terms of a verification project, have proofs that 10 years later, someone else will be able or will have to maintain it and be able to update them. So it is hard. It is hard also to scale in terms of working on specific projects. And again, I think it's, you probably have a questions of whether you're talking about just the kernel or also user level. The same way for the code base, the kernel itself requires really a lot of attention to keep it high quality, maintainable, and so on and so forth. So you'll have like scrutiny a lot more on the kernel level. So yeah, if we have contributions on the verification side, we'll apply that scrutiny and so on. On the user level side, I think it's probably a different story, and having contributions of verified artifacts would probably be welcome.
Yeah, so as a non-conflicted voice in this, I'm not working for Proofcraft. So obviously this sort of goes to the core of an open ecosystem, right? The democratization of contributions. And I think for scalability, it's absolutely essential that we'll get there. It's going to be non-trivial. There's really two things that are required for spreading this expertise. One is the universities need to turn out more verification experts. And the other, and there's the onus on our side, is we need to make it easier. And the pancake work I described is one approach to make it easier to verify. It's not going to be the solution. The other one is particular at the user level to use more automated techniques, SMT solvers, etc. And Sultan will shed more light on that aspect in his talk about the SEL4 core platform and the verification work we're trialing on that one. But it's totally a critical issue, right? If you want to really own the secure system space and really change the ball game in making trustworthy systems a reality beyond trustworthy kernels, then we need to have a much broader community contributing to verified artifacts.
Completely agree. As an entirely conflicted voice on this, working for Proofcraft, one of the things we offer is, of course, training for verification. So if you're a company and you want to build up a verification group, we're very happy to help with that. In fact, we'd be perfectly fine going out of business because we created so many verification groups.
Yes.
That'd be okay.
Questions? Do we have any online questions? Or?
No,
okay. Throw the mic.
Lou, so I'm going to do the more comment than a question, but actually I'm just going to back you up on that. is the real thing. So I'm speaking as an educator of potential proof engineers. That this is actually recognized, and so sort of helping to answer the question, I guess, that we recognize this, right? This is recognized across a fairly wide swathe of academia at this point, that we are not training enough people with these skills. Too many people are graduating from a computer science degree without really understanding anything about formal methods, or at least having a very surface level understanding. And it is something that we are actively working on. So there are conferences on formal methods education where people are actively trying to do this, but it's taking a while. So this is something where you won't see a critical mass of proof engineers in the way that at the moment you kind of do have for kernel hackers. It's going to take a while, but we are very much working on it.
I want to add really quickly that we're trying to help. So at UNSW, for example, Gerwin and June and others are running a course for verification, trying to patch these things. But even someone who's done the course, it takes about 6 months to be able to work on the SEL4 kernel proofs. So if you actually do want to do something on the SEL4 kernel proofs, then we can provide training to help you get to the part you need. Because 2 million lines of proof or something, you're not going to know where to start. Yeah, we would love to actually have more people who know.
Okay, other questions? Right here.
Is that course you mentioned somehow available to universities abroad?
Yes, the slides are out there.
Okay, interesting.
In fact, the last teaching evaluation, one student said, "I found the slides on some other website. I'm not even sure the lecturers did them themselves."
Any other questions for the committee? Oh, back in the corner there.
Hello. At the risk of asking a non-technical question,
Ask me anything.
what is is there any cross-fertilization between the wider Linux Foundation and the SL4 Foundation? And what is the roadmap for anything?
Not really. I mean, for us, the Linux Foundation isn't about Linux anymore, right? It started off being about Linux. It's really a platform for open source, non-profit foundations. And that's what we use them for. There's a particular interaction between projects more than just happens naturally in the community. Having said that, we want to make Linux obsolete in case no one noticed.
And there's no conflict there either. Okay, I think we're about at the end of our session. Any last comments from anyone on the committee? Any other remarks or things that you're excited about, or what?
I guess I'm really excited about the fact that we filled this room and we sold out the last ticket. But I also want to really encourage you to go out and missionize, evangelize, get people into the community, get people to contribute, get people to really integrate and adopt components to maintain them, etc. Because that's really how we go forward. Rust has been mentioned. We have various people playing with Rust. So far, I haven't seen a common Rust on SEL4 specification, and the community really getting together to make that happen and make Rust a first-class component in the SEL4 ecosystem. It's up to you to do it. Please go ahead and make it happen.
There'll be a discussion about that tomorrow. Yeah.
Any other closing remarks? Anyone? Okay, thank you very much, Technical Steering Committee.